I admit that the premise of this video is a little wacky, but hear me out. In the game Danganronpa, there's a bunch of characters who all have an ultimate title, like Ultimate Swimmer, or Ultimate Fashionista, or Ultimate Programmer. In the original Japanese, it's the super high school level something, and it basically means that they are the best high schooler at that particular thing, and some of them are pretty weird titles. I thought that it would be funny to go through the Genshin character roster and assign different Genshin characters these superlatives. We're going to be doing all of the titles from Danganronpa 1, Trigger Happy Havoc today, and I hope that you guys enjoy. If you do, please leave a like and a comment, but let's jump straight into it. Real quick before we jump in, I just want to say that there's going to be major spoilers for Danganronpa 1 in this video. If you don't care to be spoiled about it, please don't watch it. Okay, so I think the first ultimate title we should do is Ultimate Lucky Student. For a few of these, there is a different translation in the Japanese, which I'm going to try and be a little bit more faithful to. So for example, this one in Japanese is Super High School Level Good Luck. This is of course the title of Makoto Naegi, the main character, and the irony here is that even though he is said to have super good luck, he actually has pretty bad luck. So I thought that of course the character we assigned to Makoto is Bennett, notorious in Teyvat for his terrible luck. That one is pretty self-explanatory, and so is the next one. Makoto also sometimes has a different ultimate title, which is Ultimate Hope, or Super High School Level Hope. And I thought obviously the best character for that would be the Traveler. Seeing as how the Traveler goes around and solves everybody's problems for free, I think Ultimate Hope is a pretty good title. Next is the ultimate title of Kyoko Kirigiri, which is Super High School Level Detective. This one's obviously perfect. We have a detective in the game. His name is Heizo, so this one's easy, as far as I'm concerned. Next is Sayaka Maizono. She is the ultimate pop sensation, or in the Japanese, the Super High School Level Idol. There's one character in Genshin who, of course, is an idol herself, and that would be Barbara. So, pretty easy match, again. As we really get into these, I just want to let you guys know, if you disagree, or you think there's a better match in Genshin for any of these titles, let me know in the comments, because I'm up for sort of moving some of these characters around. I really didn't want to repeat any, so some of them are kind of a stretch, but I'm going to explain my reasoning for all of them, so hopefully you understand. This next one is where it gets maybe a little weird. It is the Ultimate Fashionista, which of course is Junko Enoshima. Well, kind of. For those who know, you know. But I think the interesting thing is, even though Ultimate Fashionista, you think obviously that's Chiori, right? Because she's a fashion designer. However, in the Japanese, her title is actually Super High School Level Gyaru. Gyaru is a very particular kind of makeup and fashion style in Japan. So instead of going for Chiori, which would be more accurate to the English dub, I went for Shilonen, who is designed, as far as I can tell, to be similar to a Gyaru, or that style of makeup, so I thought that she would be the best fit for it. Next, we have the Ultimate Martial Artist, or in Japanese, the Super High School Level Fighter. This is of course the title of Sakura Ogami, one of my absolute favorite Danganronpa characters out of any of the games. She is so cool. This one I kind of struggled with. I first wanted to give it to Child, who, as we know, can use any weapon except for the bow. But there's another title lower down this list that I really wanted to give to Child, so instead I ended up going with Ridsley. As far as I'm concerned, this one could go to Baiju or to Ridsley. Currently I'm leaning towards Ridsley because, again, the Japanese is just Ultimate Fighter, and it's the English that's Martial Artist, and I feel like Ridsley is much more of a fighter than Baiju is. The next one is easy. It's the Ultimate Biker Gang Leader, or in Japanese, the Super High School Level Gang Leader. There's only one gang leader in Genshin, as far as I'm concerned, and that is, of course, Ito. I forgot to mention it, but this is the title of Mondo Awada in Danganronpa, which is really funny because in the English dub, Mondo is voiced by Keith Silverstein, who voices Zhongli in the English dub of Genshin, which I always think is a fun mix because they could not be more dissimilar. Next is the Ultimate Moral Compass, or in Japanese, the Super High School Level Public Morals Committee member. What a mouthful. And that is of course the title of Kiyotaka Ishimaru. Now, to my knowledge, there isn't a member of a public morals committee in Genshin, but there is a character who sort of stands for what is right and what is lawful and what you're sort of supposed to do and that is Yanfei. Technically, Yanfei is not quite as straight-laced as being like a goody-two-shoes lawyer, but I thought that she was the closest to sort of an upstanding citizen that we have in Genshin. Next is my favorite character in Danganronpa 1's Ultimate. It is Byakuya Togami's title, Ultimate Affluent Progeny, aka Super High School Level Heir. I thought Singcho was the best fit for this because he is literally basically like a rich kid. His dad and his older brother run a giant like trade conglomerate, and he's the younger brother who basically just gets to enjoy the lavish lifestyle associated with it. However, I really wanted to use Singcho for a different title later down the list, so I thought the second best character would be Linny. This one leans a lot more into the Japanese translation, which is heir, because Linny is the heir to the House of the Hearth, if and when Arlecchino steps down. The next one is Ultimate Clairvoyant, or Super High School Level Fortune Teller. I think this one should be pretty obvious to most people. This is, by the way, the title of Yasuhiro Hagakure. And yes, I am saying all the names of Danganronpa characters in the Americanized way, which is their given name first and their family name second. I played all the Danganronpa games in English, that's how I'm familiar with the names. But of course, I gave this title to Mona. She is literally a fortune teller. She does fortune teller magic. She can kind of see into the future. I thought it was perfect. Ultimate Swimmer is the next title. This is the title of Aoyasa Hina. And this one, I actually kind of struggled with for a while. I was like, should I give it to Beidou because she has the swimming passive? And then I realized, no. There's a much better character for this. It is obviously Mualani. She is definitely Genshin's resident ultimate swimmer. The next title is Leon Kuwata's Ultimate Baseball Star, or in Japanese, Super High School Level Baseball Player. Now, there is obviously not any baseball in Genshin that we know of. Certainly no baseball player in the playable cast. I ended up finding a bit of a clever solution, I think, which is that I gave it to Fremine. During Fremine's attacks, he hits his little penguin buddy Pear with his sword, kind of in the way a baseball player would hit a baseball. He basically like bats it at the people he's fighting. Next is Toko Fukawa's Ultimate, the Ultimate Writing Prodigy, or in Japanese, Super High School Level Literary Girl. This is one of the only ultimates that I prefer the English version of, because Literary Girl is a weird translation. I don't know if it sounds better in Japanese, but the direct translation to English is a little awkward. Writing Prodigy sounds better. But it did give me a little bit of trouble, because this is the one that I wanted for Singcho. Because Singcho in canon writes an extremely popular like martial art novel series that's popular all across Teyvat. However, Singcho is not a girl. Therefore, the Japanese title that I'm trying to be a little bit more faithful to, Literary Girl, really doesn't fit him. Writing Prodigy would, because he's young and he's like a best-selling novelist, exactly like Toko Fukawa. So if we're gonna go by the English localization, which I prefer, then it's Singcho. If we're not gonna go by the English localization, then I'm gonna go Yai Miko for her light novels, which are also very popular across Teyvat. However, we are not done with Toko Fukawa because, and this is major spoilers, but for those of you who have not played Danganronpa, Toko Fukawa is a bit of a iffy character. She has a sort of split personality, and the other personality is a murderous serial killer. It's a bit of the game is a little dated for sure, but this personality, Genocide Jill, is known as the ultimate murderous fiend, or in Japanese, the Super High School Level Murderer. Technically in Genshin, there is no serial killer or murderer character, but there are some characters that do fit. Any of the House of the Hearth members, Linny, Lynette, Fremine, would work here because they are technically like assassins. You could even say Xiao fits here because of his past as someone who basically murdered, but he was kind of enslaved to do it, so I don't think it's very fair to give him this title. But ultimately, I broke my rule a little bit. I didn't give this one to a playable character, so I gave it to Vache, the canonical serial killer that we bust during the Fontaine Archon quest. Next is my second favorite Danganronpa 1 character, Celestia Ludenberg. Celeste is known as the ultimate gambler. This one was a little difficult for me. To my knowledge, there isn't any character in Genshin that specifically likes to gamble, so I ended up giving it to Yelan. I don't know, Yelan is kind of an awkward one to give it to. Her entire sort of aesthetic is based off of like Hong Kong casinos, which is obviously a place that you gamble. During her, I think it's her idol animation, she rolls a dice and it lands on a random number every time, so that's kind of like gambling. Okay, getting towards the end now, we've got Hifumi Yamada, aka the ultimate fanfic creator. But scratch that, because this is objectively the worst translation out of any of these in the English localization. This one gets me heated. Why did they go for ultimate fanfic creator? It's so crazy to me. In the Japanese, he is the super high school level doujin author. A doujin is like a fan-made comic. And yes, it does have a bit of a more negative reputation in the West. In the West, we typically think of doujins as something a lot smuttier than most of them are. Essentially, he's like a fan artist, not a fanfic creator, not a writer. But yeah, we are definitely going with ultimate doujin author. So who fits ultimate doujin author the best? Well, I also thought of Yae for this one because of her light novels, but I don't think she does the art for them herself anyway. I think she just comes up with the stories. So I thought a better fit for this title would be Albedo. Albedo draws, obviously, but specifically, Albedo illustrates Sing Cho's novels. I feel really bad to give Albedo this title because most people would probably agree that Hifumi Yamada is the most annoying character in Danganronpa 1. He's a bit of a degenerate, and Albedo is my sweet prince, and I don't want him to be associated with Hifumi. But he really is the best fit, so I'm sorry, Albedo. I hope he forgives me. Chihiro Fujisaki is next, with their title Ultimate Programmer, which I believe is the same in Japanese, super high school level programmer. This one was obviously a little tricky because Genshin does not have computers, at least not in a traditional sense. I ended up giving it to Nahida. In Genshin, the tree of Irminsul is like kind of based around like being a computer. Dendro's whole gimmick is that it's the nature element, but it has sort of computerized digital aspects to it. And Nahida is obviously the Dendro Archon. She is the sort of avatar of Irminsul. I thought that she would be the best character for this. Okay, and you might think that is it, but no, we have two left. These are very big spoilers for Danganronpa 1. The first one that we have is a duo, a 2-for-1 duo, Ultimate Despair, which belongs to Junko Enoshima, who we already went over, and her twin sister Mukuro Ikusaba. This one I also kind of broke my rule on. There's no specific character I think is ultimate despair-y in Genshin necessarily, so I ended up giving it to the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles, who we see at the beginning of the game, because they're the one that kind of makes the traveler all sad and steals away their sibling, so that's pretty disparaging, if you ask me. And finally, we have just Mukuro Ikusaba's title, Ultimate Soldier. At first, I wanted to give this to Chevreuse, because Chevreuse is a soldier in the Fontaine police or guards. Technically, you could give this to a lot of the Knights of Favonius. You could also give this to Sara from Inazuma because she's part of the Shogunate army. You could give this to Goro as well because he's a general. You could even give this to Dia because she's part of the Corps of 30. Or you could do what I did and give it to Child. Child fell into the abyss when he was a wee child, and he came out a bloodthirsty killer. Basically, he learned how to use every single weapon, and he lives for combat. He absolutely loves to fight. I thought that was a better personification of Ultimate Soldier than some of these other characters. But yeah, that is the last Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc Ultimate title that we have today. We have assigned all of them Genshin characters, most of them playable characters, and I hope that you guys enjoyed. This was a really silly idea that I had. I don't know how many of you guys are going to enjoy it. I don't know how many of you guys have played Danganronpa, but if you did enjoy it, let me know by liking and commenting and even subscribing. If you guys like it enough, I'll definitely do another one for Danganronpa 2 and maybe even Danganronpa V3. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today, so I will see you all in the next one. Later!